Okay, what's up, guys? So Eric's gonna be on in a couple minutes. And I'm sure other people will kind of flow in as in the next few minutes. I would just suggest potentially I guess we could start around the horn, or we could do actually just maybe drop something in your updates room if you want to. Um, I maybe tell your DE what your plan is to submit tomorrow. If you're prepared for that, we still have those deliverables due. So I'll just wait till Eric comes on in a couple minutes. But
Hey Carson, can you touch base on the deliverables again?
yeah. So we just want you to submit something to your DE basically. Usually by this point, like we want people to write like 3 to 5,000 words, but that's not like required. We just want to we want you to submit something for feedback, if that makes sense. Something like some people write a lot faster, a lot slower than others, or some people like write when they're inspired. So I would definitely, hopefully, like last week, we hopefully came up with a plan for you. Like in the session, we said like what you want to give to your DE. So yeah, ideally like probably 3 to 5,000 words if you have them, or just like a story for feedback, something like that. Just get it rolling. Yeah. Eric.
Carson, how are you, good sir?
Good. Chiefs won today. Big game. It was exciting.
Big game.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes,
Mm-hmm.
MVP candidate, it looks like.
Yeah, all day. Yeah.
Really happy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't think a lot of people would show up to this. I know it's a pretty busy week, but hopefully they'll
Frozen.
deliverables. Oh, I'm frozen. Am I good now?
Oh, you're good. Now you're looking. I was frozen.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, Kelsey. So we want to just provide you guys a little bit of time to work like with me and with Eric for a little bit. If you have any questions for either of us, let us know now. Yeah. And did you have a little spiel, Eric?
Yeah, I was just going to say just very quick. Going to say is, behind all that sort of stuff. And try.
You're
the
kind
goal of the first bit is to try and Do you got me now?
Yeah, that's a lot better. I don't know what you did. Yeah, it's a lot better.
All right. I don't know what happened. All right. I was just going to say very quickly, ships thing to your developmental editor by Monday at midnight. You'll get some feedback. It's hard to write a book, hard to get better at stories. So just try and ship something. If you don't get to 5,000 words, don't freak yourself out, but try and get something to them for feedback. And that'll be the key thing right there. So that's all I wanted to say is like, I know we sort of said, hey, yeah, try to get 3,000 to 5,000 words. That's a great, that target. If you're like, I didn't get last week, whatever it is, just try and get something, get 2 stories, get 1 story, get something to them so you can get some feedback. So that's my only 2 cents is number 1, don't freak yourself out. But number 2, try and ship something so you can get a little feedback because that'll help you as you keep going along. There you go. Peace. Mic drop.
Sounds good. Yeah. Any questions for Eric? On that, we'll probably just have pretty like structured work time. I know you guys might have a couple, literally like about anything, about your topic, about your writing.
I don't have feedback, but I have to agree with Eric helped me out when I was talking to him. Like, how do I get inspired for writing? And the biggest thing he says, like, focus on like one day, like just sit down and start writing. So it's just a little piece of advice that he told me that has really helped me with writing my stories.
Yeah, I think, find what works for you, right? I think Nico's right. Like whatever your inspiration is, just do it. And I would say if you find yourself in a rut, what I find is there's 3 things that you can change. Change your location, right? That's number 1 that you can certainly do. Change your time. So like if you're like struggling to do it, like basically grab one of these guys, like grab a monster and like get up really late or do it really late or set your alarm and get up really early. And then number 3, and this one is sort of going to sound cheeky, but change your attitude, right? Just be like, fuck it. I'm going to do this come hell or high water. So those 3 things, change your location. Like if you're struggling doing it in your room, go to a coffee shop, go to that, whatever it is. Change your hours that you do it. If you're like, I can't do it during the day, right? Like I don't have time to write during the day right now. So I literally once a week, I basically go from 10 to 3 a.m. I think that's my time. I'm terrible the next day, but like, that's my writing time. And then the last thing is like, just be like, I'm going to do this one. I'm set out to do it. I'm committed to do it. And there you go.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Are we trying to get an additional 3,000 to 5,000 words to our DE, or are we just trying to get like an initial 3,000 to 5,000 words to our development?
Yeah. Good question. I'd say get it like you're shooting for initial, right? The first 5,000 words total, right? So like, again, however you decide to structure it, if you're going to be doing like 2,000 words a week or whatever you're going to be doing, the goal is kind of to try to get 3,000 to 5,000 words. Like I would say this way, authors typically will shoot to get 3,000 to 5,000 words to their DE over the first 2 weeks. And the reason you'll do that is just to sort of have enough content they can give you feedback on it to say, hey, Kelsey, like, I really like your story structure. One thing is you might want to add more dialogue. Or, hey, Nico, it would be really interesting if you tried to bring in an expert opinion to these stories or whatever it is. It's just, that's about enough words for them to review it and give you some kind of like more overarching proof for your next batch. Does that kind of make sense, Kelsey?
Yeah, totally. I've written a little over 4,000 words that I've gotten to them. And she's actually been pretty helpful, but I just didn't know then if I like needed to write another,
no.
5,000. No, I was like, I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, no. That's in good shape. Again, like 3,000 to 5,000 words is the perfect target because it gives them enough that they can look at it. And what you've been getting is kind of like, as you see, they give sort of small pieces of feedback on stories, and they won't always be able to read. They have a limited number of stories of yours that they'll read just with the time numbers that they have, but they'll give you feedback on them. And then what they're going to do this week is kind of like aggregate all of the stuff they've read and say, hey, here's some overall feedback as you look at your next batch of writing.
Oh, gotcha. So I guess maybe question on how they'll work with us going forward then. Are they not going to read like everything that we do?
They will not read everything that you do. They'll read a selection of what you do that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If you want them to read everything that you do, like we can just let us know. There's this, it's like for $150, they can't read everything. Like it's just impossible. Right. So if you're like, I want more feedback on it, great. They're happy to do it. You can just let them know. And then we'll just, again, you can hire them for more hours. They have kind of a basket of hours. They work with everyone that allows them to review a set of your stories and a set of your chapters. And then once you get into like the I'm publishing this phase, all of your content will be read and reviewed in that way, like copy editor, development, editing. But for this phase, it'll be a selection of things.
Okay, gotcha. No, that's good to know. I'll write probably different stories before others then.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of tag what you want. And again, what I would say is like anything that you really want feedback on that's high value, like I really want you to do this one, great. That's the ones you should let them know on, and they'll certainly prioritize those ones.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. And yeah, I think, one thing just on that note, right, is I think, again, what they're sort of trying to identify is give you some sort of like feedback to improve kind of like bigger things. Again, this is not editing it for like, oh gosh, like, you use the Oxford comma, my God, please don't, or whatever it would be. But it's more to make sure that there's a sort of a magic to story writing. And so one of the things just kind of that Kelsey's point brings up is some people say, I get feedback on a story, what do I do with it? And again, the advice is not to go out and make those changes, but basically read them and then sort of incorporate them in the next sort of waves of stories you do. So that's kind of this iterative feedback process that you'll be going through.
I have another question now. Something that my development, like I can't even say, my DE brought up, like made me think that I might need to do like some kind of follow-up to get more content from somebody. Should I just like table that for now and keep writing? Like, how do I handle that? Okay.
Table it. So any kind of feedback that you get, table it. Don't worry about, so what'll happen is you just keep writing first drafts and then incorporate that feedback into your mind to say like, here's how I'm going to improve. And then when we go into the chapter writing, which will happen in January, in part of February, that's when you'll start to like add these things back into it. But yeah, for now, don't make any changes, I would say.
Okay. And then there will be at some point, like the person who comes in with like the copy, like editing, does like the Oxford comma stuff, and like that'll get done.
You'll have actually 4 versions of this manuscript that you'll have. So we're basically in this time together, this first chunk, just trying to get to a first draft. And really it'll be DE mostly feedback. And then basically the second version will be mostly feedback related to Meet My comments and sort of more structural things. Then you'll have advanced reader feedback and copy editing feedback. So you have a lot of feedback until this thing gets finalized for sure.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It will be something you'll be like, wow, I can't believe how good this is that I wrote this. So don't worry, we'll get you there.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, great questions. Julia or Ali or anyone else have any questions for Eric?
Yeah, I have a question. I guess I noticed as I was trying to write some stories from my primary interviews that like they're pretty short, and I'm not sure, I don't know if that's like necessarily an issue, if I need to adjust my interview questions to sort of like get more out of it, but I was just kind of, yeah, I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I guess I'm just looking
No.
sort of.
You are asking a great question, and it's very natural. First drafts of stories basically on primary interviews are oftentimes short, like 300 to 500 words. Now, what you'll find is that that's oftentimes because you probably don't use as many quotes as you should, number one, so adding more dialogue, so finding more things in there to add in there. Number two, adding more descriptive elements, so telling things like what the restaurant looked like where they had this event at, or more background on them, where they went to college, that sort of stuff. And the third one is more kind of, call it like depth, and those are things like referring to other pieces to add expertise in. So what I will tell you is usually what will happen is you'll get sort of these 3 Ds in your feedback. And then when you go back into it, you'll typically double or triple the length of it by going back in and adding the 3D. So write it in whatever format it is, and know that most likely if it's short, it's because you can add more to it to make it more in-depth.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, obviously I know we're just writing first drafts and like starting to write stories now, and we're not necessarily thinking about like, you know, how we're going to organize things in chapters or anything like that. But yeah, I just wasn't sure what the best.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up. Again, I think Ali, that is a very, very common thing. People are like, oh God, this is only 250 words. Like, what happened? What's wrong with it? And again, what I would tell you is typically it means that you have you can add more dialogue, descriptive. And again, it's just not something we naturally do when we write, but like adding things like, you know, what time it, you know, what it looked like at that time, what was the location like, you know, more quotes, all these things will just take it from something that we sort of write to be more concise. When you're taught in school to write concise, and in writing for a book, you want to expand those things, and so you'll find that expanding those things usually comes in those things. My rule of thumb is if you don't have a piece of dialogue or like sort of quotes in every 3, and at least after every 3 paragraphs, there's no quotes in it, you need to add some, right? At least one. And you'll typically, when you go back through it, if you want to take a story and try and amplify it, you want to go in and sort of add all 3 of those elements in every 3 paragraphs. Do I have a place where I've added dialogue? Do I have a place where I've added more depth in a place? And then do I have a place where I added more sort of descriptive and then that depth? Add those in and you'll double it every time.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cool.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, well, I'll let you guys do your thing here, Carson. And if anyone has questions, let me know. But again, keep after it. You know, like this is a process. You'll get better at it. And we're writing books, people. That's awesome. I'll see you guys soon.
Exciting, yeah. All right, see you later, Eric. Bye. All right, guys. I'm gonna be on here. I'm just gonna be like working on my stuff. Feel free to stay as long as you want. I'll probably be going to like 9:45. Just ask me any questions if you want. Or use this as like a good excuse to work on your own stuff too. So yeah, I'll just be working. And feel free to like take off if you need to, like no big deal. We're just working. Yeah.
Carson, I have another question before I probably take off. I'm finding that I'm not like, there are a couple stories that are pretty short based off what Eric was saying, but I didn't really find that I had many things that were like super quote worthy or like didn't ask for descriptors or anything like that. Is that something I'm just going to have to like table for right now and like get in a secondary interview, or like what do I like, how do I, like a follow-up, I mean, for like those people, or like what do I do about that? Like I know what the problem is, like I know how to make the story better, but I just don't have the material. Yeah,
that's a great question. I don't think like if you've already written the story, like I would say table it. But if this, if you like think this might be a problem as you're writing more stories, I would definitely suggest I mean, you kind of already said it. Like, I would beef it up a lot with like secondary interviews, just because it's very moldable content, if you will. Like, you can kind of find whatever you want to say from a secondary interview. For example, I was looking at like Mark Cuban and Mark Cuban doing some work in like, I wanted to find like a story of an entrepreneur that was like told that he couldn't be an entrepreneur, and I just look up like that description, and like I found probably like a few hundred words from just a small story about Mark Cuban. So I would definitely just try and like supplement it with secondary interviews if you can. I think you'd be very surprised how many things that are exactly in line with your story are out there that you could use. So does that help?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I might just have to play with it because I think that I maybe didn't grab as many quotes as I thought. Like, I was thinking I needed fewer quotes than I actually need in this process. So I think I just have to play with it a little more and then maybe get creative about how to beef it up.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, like, yeah, don't get too stressed about like the whole quote thing. Like, I wrote a pretty decent story. I hope it's decent. We'll see. It was like 750 words, and I only used one quote because I really tried to expand on the idea and use more of like a narrative approach. So don't necessarily like feel too stressed about. We don't really have any specific like requirements for your writing. So kind of you can take some liberties if you want to use a lot of secondary or use a lot of quotes. It's up to you. So.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I hopped on a little late, but I might. These are always just recorded on the weekly sessions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One question just to clarify while I'm getting started right now.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted a couple like general stories that they just read over this week. What did he want overall? Did he want more stories this week, or do we have to have a certain amount that we should have done in this 1 week span?
Oh, like, no need to stress. I'm happy to see you already submitted stuff. That's great. What the idea was is we want to like give you guys deliverables and like basically make a very easy deadline for you to come up with whatever it may be that you want to submit. This is the initial one. It's technically the first like deliverable is tomorrow midnight. That was kind of what I was saying. Like, I haven't submitted anything yet, but if you already submitted stories, that's great. As we were saying, maybe I should make this a little bit clearer. I'm gonna send a message out this week. But like, a lot of authors write like 3,000 to 5,000 words, but not everybody writes like that. Not everybody like keeps up with like writes a certain amount a day or whatever. Some people write when they're inspired. So if you're like submitting stories or whatever, that's really great already. But it sounds like you're on a good pace. Yeah.
And is there a date that we know of yet for like a second deliverable where we have to have that, or is that just going to be announced later?
I think we're gonna do it I'll announce it, of course, but I think it'll be the week after we come back from Thanksgiving. So
cool.
It'll be a longer period, but we hope you guys have like a little bit more of a word count.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great.
Carson, I'm about to hop off, but I don't know if you know the story of Kevin O'Leary. That could be a fun story.
From Shark Tank, right?
Yeah. Where he got like hired from the ice cream shop. Literally, as soon as you said Mark Cuban, I thought about that. But I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, see you, Nico. Have a good one. Hey, Julia, I'm probably gonna stay on for like another 5 minutes or so. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, I think I'm gonna be done for the night. Good luck with everything, Julia. Let me know if you need anything else.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks. Same to you. Bye-bye.